Hey, welcome to Hashtag with Nabuguzi Kiwanuka. This is the place where we help you unravel social constructs, discuss self-development in line with mental health, and everything in between that directly or indirectly affects us in the millennial world around us. My goal is to create a virtual platform for you and I to explore and engage in pertinent conversations society is silent about. What you get from this is without a doubt a chance for you to have moments of self-assessment so that you can ably jump into your next best season. I am your host, Nabuguzi Kiwanuka, a lawyer, founder, team lead of Equate Foundation, an addict and lover of insightful conversations, and a professional unraveler of social constructs. If you're hearing my voice for the first time and are the kind of person who is not scared of being a better version of yourself, even if it requires you to contradict who you were 24 hours ago, you made the right choice to come here, because on here we keep unraveling the truest version of ourselves to reveal the best that we can be in society. To the returned subscriber, you are the heartbeat of this podcast, and I hope that I'll keep serving you the kind of content that you so desire. Our guest today is a lawyer, poet extraordinaire, co-founder of a poetry company, Kitara Nation, and above all, a teacher ready to change the status quo in Uganda's literature. We have Kagayi Ngobi in this episode, sharing with us how his literary life began right under the care of his parents. His is a story that manifests him as a person who walked away from society's career expectations and created a narrative of his own. I enjoyed every bit of the conversation and I cannot wait for you to hear it all, so let's jump into it. Kagayi.
Wanji.
We have Nigerians here, we have people in the US, we have people in the UK. You can say Wanji.
Greetings to everyone. How are you? Nice to see you after a while.
After how many years, by the way? Did I see you on your launch?
Which one? Be precise.
The very first one.
Oh, yeah.
That so was, many stories.
That was 2016.
I think I didn't see you. But I saw you in 2016 before the launch.
Oh, yes.
My goodness.
Oh, yes.
Yes, how many? 4 years?
5.
2016. Oh, 2021.
Yes.
Okay.
5 years.
Okay. Yes, it's very nice catching up with you again.
Same here, as always.
You changed from Peter Kagayi to Kagayi Ngobi.
Yes, there was that trajectory too.
Yeah.
So
welcome to Hashtag with Nabuguzi Kiwanuka. What did you want to be while growing up?
A lawyer.
You wanted to be a lawyer while growing up?
No, I wanted to be a lawyer, yes.
Yeah.
But that's what my father was always saying. This boy will make a good lawyer. You're going to be a lawyer. So that sort of thing.
From what age was that?
As from 5, I grew up in a home where it was being drummed everywhere. This boy is going to be a lawyer because he likes arguing, because he likes reading, because he likes...
Yeah.
So I didn't even know what it meant. There's a big lawyer in town. He was our neighbor then.
You didn't even care to ask?
I didn't. Ask who? Ask what?
Your dad. You'd be like,
yeah,
what do lawyers do?
What do lawyers do? How do you explain it to a 6-year-old?
You break it down to them.
And this is how most people break it down for you simply.
Yeah.
Lawyers argue.
Wow.
That's it. That's what they say. But they say you're argumentative and you like reading, therefore you're going to be a lawyer. And so I remember in senior 6, the 3rd term, our literature teacher asked me, Kagayi, what are you going to do at university? And I told him I want to do law. I want to be a lawyer.
Did you want to do it? Or
yeah, I did.
Was it because someone was telling you that you were supposed to be this?
I guess it's a bit of both. Our parents, we look up to our parents and we hang on to their words and their guidance and mentorship. They are the God's representatives on earth.
Yeah.
And so, and I always knew my parents wished the best for me. They were always, painting the high life of lawyers and stuff. It was
and you wanted the high life.
I mean, Boston Legal was around at the time, and all these novels you're reading.
Yeah.
Atticus Finch and what he's doing in To Kill a Mockingbird, and you're reading John Grisham and Tom Clancy.
You're reading those books?
Yeah, I was, and so for me, the life of the lawyer was something to aspire to.
Yeah.
But even then, me, I always loved literature. It was a thing that I always loved it. It was a passion that was nurtured from home.
I mean, I'm surprised you're talking about those books.
Yes.
Like,
among others.
Exactly, because you imagine, man,
no, but
it's not common to find those books in the homes.
My father fell in love with a girl who liked reading. So when she came into the marriage, she brought along her private collection.
Right.
And then my father was a primary school teacher. He was always head of department English, and he was always the patron of the writers club and publishing magazines. So we always had books at home. Sometimes really special books. I remember the times that he was going for a trip. I think I was 9 or 10, and that's the first time I read Harry Potter. He brought us Harry Potter, the first 3 series, and we had never heard of Harry Potter. And
so that was when he traveled.
Yeah, that's what every time he was going to travel, every time he was going for further studies or whatnot, the only way he knew how to distract us from thinking about his absence was by buying us books, novels.
Okay.
And we wouldn't even miss him at all.
So it's quite interesting that parents devise means of helping their children cope.
I don't think
with their absence.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No.
And his nearest were books.
No, but then here's the thing. It wasn't by accident. This is what my father keeps. There was one time he invited me to perform in 2065. For a staff meeting at another school that he was head teacher.
Yeah.
Then that was about 3 years ago. And he told this story. It was the first time I was hearing him tell the public how I taught myself how to read. At home.
They didn't help.
I don't know. There was no need to. And this is why. There were always books lying around.
No, wait. Because now I'm imagining, when you talk about the books and your mother's love for books, I'm imagining that's the chick you fell in love with. Maybe some of that chick.
No, that's the chick you fell in love with.
Yeah, I'm imagining if she loved books, I would think that she would, invite you and read for you.
She didn't have to. And this is the thing about parenting.
Yeah.
Children learn by imitation. So the things that you do around home, rather than what you tell them to do, it's about what they see you do.
Children are reflection.
Yes,
mirror
yes. And so my mother loved reading.
Yeah.
Our father was always buying newspapers every day, and he was reading. So for us, reading was a thing. The same way you think about cleaning your room, the same way you think about bathing, reading was part and parcel of our domestic life.
Wow.
Our mother was always reading novels. She was always telling us, do you know, the first time I heard of the novel The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born was, I think, when I was 4. I only read it when I was 25. But we grew up in a home where our mother used to tell us, Peter, you need to read the book called The Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. So I always imagined, what's in this book?
Wow.
What's it about? So it was that kind of home. So the things of storytelling, things of reading, things of abusing us using proverbs, things of idiomatic expressions. I grew up in a home that used literature as a form of communication. I would joke, I would diss my sister by quoting Song of Lawino. You see her applying, makeup and what, and you just go in a corner and you start, the beautiful one aspires to look like, her lips are glowing red hot like charcoal. She looks like a cat, and then she would throw a shoe at you or something like that. And then another time she would quote "Cry the Beloved Country" because she's. So for us, it was always that. But it was what it was, and my father keeps telling us we were kids who used to dismantle everything.
How? By dismantling what you meant?
The curiosity was the kind that you could come home and you find the radio, all the screws are, we don't know how to put it together, but we've put everything apart.
Yeah.
We were that kind of, we were destructive, breaking things, and he keeps telling us, you kids, I think I should bill you out for everything that you destroyed. And one time I asked him, how about the books? And he said, actually, the only thing you guys never destroyed, no matter the age, were books. So we never used to
do. They were
voodoo.
sacred, man.
We do not know. They were never presented. Of course, we lived in a home that respected books. By virtue of them being important, because both of them were teachers of English language and they loved reading, and they,
and then you also see the care with which they hold the
carry
books.
them, and with how when people come home and they borrow them, how all that documentation.
People would borrow books.
Yeah, like
would they return them?
Yes, they would return them. So we grew up in that kind of system. So
generational crisis. People don't return books, man.
Oh, I know.
I tell people when someone asks for my book, I'm like, hey, no, I don't want another enemy, please. I don't. Please ask for anything. Don't ask for any book.
What I do is I now buy more than one.
No, I'm not catering for anyone. I'm buying my book.
If anyone wants to borrow a book,
let them go and buy.
I tell them, take that.
I'm not doing it.
Well,
man, I'm not that generous, I think.
Yeah, you need to be.
No.
Start
First of all, I'm broke already. I'm saving money for this book, and then
but then to tell you the truth, I lost so many books as well.
Yeah.
Because I used to take books to school, and sometimes it was actually to do a show-off thing with my. But now this is a beautiful. I had friends at school where we'd show off books. Like for us at home, we have this collection of Cartoon Network, and and this is the other thing my mother told me about reading and performance. She told us our father used to buy us books at a very early age that we would watch videos for. So imagine you're 2 or 3 years old and you're watching TV and reading the book at the same time. See, now those were the kinds of books we would go with at school. Then, of course, in primary, P5 to P6, there are comic books and whatnot. You're going to school, you're exchanging. But in the process, you're also losing so many books because, people break into your bag and take things.
And when it comes to school, when you've lost something, you've lost something.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to trace it.
I'm glad for my father that he never punished us for losing books.
Yeah.
That's the... Now looking back, we were careless. Of course, we were children. And we lost so many beautiful, amazing books, even from his private collection. But he never punished us for losing books.
What would he say? What would his reaction look like? In a moment, let me say he's looking for a book. And
I lost a poetry book. It's the only poetry book I've seen. I've looked for that poetry book up to now. I've failed to find it.
Yeah.
All I remember is it was grey and black. I lost it because
don't even remember the title.
I don't remember the title, but I remember the poems in there, believe me. And I took it to school in P7 and someone stole it. And my father I think he was looking for it to get a poem that you could use in class or something like that. And it wasn't there. And I told him, I don't have the books. They stole it from school because they had seen me there. And just looked at me and shook his head and said, "But Peter, he blamed me. But he was never
out of frustration.
Yeah, but it was never done as a form of retribution or deterrence. Yeah, and that.
So not even at one point did he say, "Don't touch my books again"?
No.
Oh well, I did that to my niece.
No, never. And then of course we used to fight for the crossword puzzle. Like it was a fight, literally.
In the newspapers.
Fight, the newspaper puzzle. The moment he comes back and he has a paper, you leave everything there, the foods, what you're fighting for the puzzle, and then
who gets to eat first?
Who gets to eat first? And then we change the game and we're like, who gets to eat last? Like everybody fill in. If you fail, just pass it on.
To show your how genius you are.
So it was that kind of family that I grew up in. So when I went to law school, I had this false impression of what law was. In my thinking, probably I was right, but maybe not right at the time, or not right for the time. I used to think literature and the law in Uganda were inextricable.
Yeah.
How you read, Raskolnikov in Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, and he's a law student. It's an amazing novel. A law student commits murder and he tries to rationalize it. you know. And so I'm reading all that stuff. So I went to law school thinking we're going to have a course unit where we're discussing maybe literature and the law.
Oh dear.
So we get there, and I remember the first lecture in contract law, the lecturer used the word subject matter.
Oh yeah.
You know, what is the subject matter of the contract?
Yeah.
Now, that should have been a foreshadow for me, because the understanding of subject matter in law and in poetry, they are a bit the same, but I did not, for me at the time, they appeared to be different. And so the longer I spent time at law school, the more I realized the reality is that law is a straight-jacket. You know, the lecturer comes to class, gives you notes, gives you coursework, they don't know your names, it is impersonal, the numbers are too many, you try to put up your hand, people are putting you down, you can't think beyond the reading list.
Oh yeah.
You see? And so I started getting frustrated. Actually, the time I
at that moment, it did not feed how inquisitive your mind is.
It did not. In fact, it killed it. It killed it, because you're not thinking, you're absorbing things, and it's
a recital
lot of work.
of the same things.
Yes, it's a regurgitation.
Right. Regurgitation is the word.
And so, by the time I was in third year, I like using this phrase, by the time I was in third year, the faculty was smelling bad for me. That's what my friends and I used to tell us. Like, by the time in third year, just the place stinks of indolence, ambivalence, betrayal. You know, because you
the
remember
word person.
Yeah, because you remember what your teacher told you in high school, you know, about law and how it's going to this, and you're here, and they're just teaching you how to absorb. And here's the thing: we could see our friends cheat their way to success, you know.
Yeah.
And so it was not even really the conscious, straight path for fighting justice. It wasn't even that. Now, all these were realizations that I was coming to when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So when I was in third year, and a friend of mine invites me to go to the National Theatre. I had never been to the National Theatre before.
Had you heard about it though?
Yeah. I'd heard about the National Theatre.
Wait, all your time in your literature times in school, you didn't
I was never
finish?
I was never part of any writers club.
Wow.
I was never part of any drama club.
How?
I think in O-Level I was part of the Interact Club, maybe for
as a reader. Now that's quite confusing. As a reader and a lover of words, how is it that you didn't get to be a part of these?
Okay. The schools that I went to Nalia and Chitende, they had these things, but they were never serious. And this is the truth. This is the other challenge that we have in schools, at least in Uganda, is that when you talk about writers' clubs, they don't exist for creative writing. They exist for the brand of the school. So that is the truth. They take pictures of how the school looks like, then they parade all the prefects, the teachers and the departments, and then they ask the teacher in charge asks a few students to contribute an article about this, a poem about this,
which is doctored.
And that is all.
Yeah.
So there were really not spaces for creative expression among young people. So all that time, I went through up to university. I'd never been part of any space that engages creative expression. For me, my poetry, even my passion for it, was a private thing.
Yeah.
In schools I went to, poetry was for girls. Literature was for girls.
Right.
So we were about 3 boys and maybe 15 girls in this class. You know, it was that thing frowned upon.
Yeah.
So even my passion for it was domestic. Now, for me, I grew up in a home where it didn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl or whatever. You like reading, you like reading. You like expressing it, like expressing it. And sometimes you're talking to friends and you're using all these quotes and lines and stuff. For me, memorization, and it was just easy.
Yeah.
So in third year, after feeling all frustrated with all this law thing and how sad I was becoming, I go to the National Theatre after a friend of mine invites me to go and attend a poetry show. It was the first time I was hearing anything of that sort. That there is, first and foremost,
which year
poetry.
Is that? Which year could that have been?
That was 2009, yo.
Yeah.
That was 2009. And I'd never heard of a poetry show. I'd never heard of alive poets. The only poet that I knew who was alive was my young bro. And this is how I got to know he had performed poorly in his senior 5 end of term bichi bichi. And my mother, I had a super A. My mother asks me to help him. So the first thing I do is I ask Isaac to give me his literature book, paper 1. And when he does, they had an amazing teacher. This teacher used to instruct them to go to the library to collect their own poems and then also write. So his literature book was full of classical poems I had never read. He had an excellent taste. And then it also had his own poems he had written, and I could read him along these great poets, and the satisfaction that William Wordsworth, that Shakespeare would give me, my young bro.
He was giving that
to me. I was like,
So in this moment, you had never thought of yourself
I'd never written before.
Yeah.
I was just a reader. I was just absorbing and writing. That was all that I was doing. I had never seen a poet alive.
Until you met your brother.
Until I met my brother. Even the Wangusas, the Chigulis, I had read them. I knew their lines by heart. I had never met them. My presumption was they were dead.
Oh.
The first time I met Susan Chiguli, I thought she was dead and buried.
So for you, in that moment, it was like, these are guys that have existed a long time ago.
They died. They died. And this is the thing, the way literature is taught to us is taught from that. There's even a theory about it, that when you publish, you die. So we grow up not knowing that we have our heroes and heroines close to us.
Yeah.
So I was shocked.
When you went to the theater?
When I met Isaac, and he's a poet. Now imagine the shock when I go to the theater and I meet a group of 30 poets putting on a stage show. And by the way, none of them was a student of literature. Oh, and by the way, some of them were my course mates. These are people I used to see every day, but in this legal thing, I would never imagine them wearing a costume and being on stage reciting a love poem, or a poem about culture, or this guy. I had never imagined life beyond law. And
because you were indoctrinated from such a young age.
And so I get into this space, I walk out and I am not the same. Yeah. I remember the girl that invited me she had tried for 6 months to get me to join the Lantern Meet of Poets, and I had said no, because I always thought, who's going
what made her want you to be there?
So
what is it that she saw in you?
One day, one third year, we went for public international law, of course, and a friend of mine, who was her friend, asks me to hold her books because she wanted to go and buy something from the canteen. And they had given us an assignment. So I decided, let me just see what she has done.
Yeah.
Now, as fate might have it, the book that I first opened was not her international law book. It was her poetry book. And I opened it and I read Grace Kamia's poems, and they were amazing poems. So she comes to class and the lecturer has cancelled. Yeah. And I tell her, by the way, you have amazing poetry. And she says, what do you mean?
Oh,
and then I break it
she
down
was
for
the
her.
one writing.
She was it was her own poetry book.
Oh, okay.
Personal diary.
Yeah.
And then I give her my perspective on things. And she's like, wow, you should join our poetry group. I was like, Nedda. So she goes and tells that friend of hers about me, Barbara. And now Barbara is more tenacious about wanting Kagayi to join the Lantern Meet. She follows me up, she calls me every time they were going to meet every Sunday. There was a time we went together, she held my hand and went up to the small gate, and I told her, I've changed my mind. She was like, Peter, come. I was like, no, I don't want.
What was stopping you?
There was a fear. I thought it was just a group of girls talking flowers. I was like, I couldn't just imagine myself sitting there like this.
But something had interested you about the other person's work. So what was stopping you? No, because I don't think you only found flowers in her poetry book.
Yeah, but she was a girl writing poetry. For me, that's all the stereotypes.
Yeah.
Now, what changed when I walked out of that theater was that actually I saw more boys on that stage than girls. So first, I cross-checked myself, and I was like, yo, Peter, that stereotyping has to stop. Poetry is not just for girls. And the things that they were talking, the themes were cutting across. Now, some poems that had been recited by boys but written by girls and vice versa. So I saw a new world of thinking. So when I walked out of that space, I went straight to Barbara and I asked her, when do you meet again? She's like, no, we meet again in 2 weeks' time. And the rest is history. When I joined the Lantern Meet, I'd never written poetry before.
Years.
I'd never recited poetry before.
Yeah.
But when I started writing, my friends kept telling me, Peter, you write like you've been writing for ages.
Yeah.
So there was really support. I remember when the first recital that I was going to perform at, I was like, you guys, we need to have some of these historical writers, poets, who are alive here. So can we get Chiguli to come? Can we get these professors to come? And my friends were like, those people, they just sit there in their citadels aloof. They don't want to care. I was like, yes, I know. But how about we make it and we make an effort? At least let us invite them. And they
refuse. Had they ever approached them, or it was just an assumption?
No, they had actually. They had, yes. And so I was given the task to invite Susan Chiguli. I had never met her. I had never seen her. I didn't know where her office was. I didn't know my way around Makerere that well. But I got to her office and I walked in.
Yeah.
And I said, my name is Kagayi from the Lantern Meet of Poets, and this is an invitation letter. 2 weeks, we have our show. Like, 2 weeks? It's too soon.
Yeah,
it is too soon, but it's happening. And she's like, well, I don't think I'll make it. I was like, it's okay. Just know we are reciting your poems.
Oh.
And then I walked out.
Oh.
So I didn't think she would turn up for the event.
No, let me tell you something. Reverse psychology, that one.
I don't know.
Who doesn't want to see their work performed?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
So she turned up, and that was the night, in my opinion, Jason Taro, the poet, was born. That was an amazing time. It's one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen poetry do.
Yeah.
It was an amazing show. Susan Chiguli, she didn't come along. She came along with Professor Sister Dominic DiPio, and she asked me to go to her office again. She told us about the David Cook Fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she took me and introduced me to some of the lecturers at university. Like, this is Kagayi, he's a poet from Lantern Meet. These guys do this.
Can you imagine when you had just joined?
Exactly. So for me, when I walked in, my friends embraced me, the world of literature embraced me, and I felt
home. Yeah.
I felt home. And one of the things that kept perturbing me and gave me a lot of anger, and probably that was the driving force that I took into the next 6 years of my life after I met the Lantern Meet. Who the fuck were my teachers? Like, I'm sorry, excuse the French, but this is why I'm asking this.
Yeah.
I am this talented.
Yeah.
Why is it that all my life nobody ever saw that?
Yeah.
How come I could be this good at writing, at performance, at what, but my teachers never...
No one identified me.
Nobody could do that. And so I asked myself the question, how many more like me walk around with ideas on what we want to do, but we are inhibited by the lack... the lack of scope we are given. We are just told, you're good at reading and writing, go and be a lawyer. Go and do this. And go and be an engineer.
You have to fit within
You have to fit within...
Doctor, engineer, lawyer. A loser.
A loser, that way.
Yeah.
So, my friends and I took that conversation to heart. Why is it that nobody ever discovered us?
So you asked yourself, you had to sit down as poets.
We had sessions on sessions on sessions to just talk about why is it that we are this talented? Why is it that we are this good?
Yeah.
But nobody has ever noticed it.
The vanity.
Yeah, believe me, it was the vanity.
Yeah.
The Lantern Meet was a group of vain people. We were vain, and we were so proud of it. Our vision then became to restore the epoch of Uganda's literary greatness. We took it upon ourselves to make sure that we become the emblem that is going to define what great Ugandan literature is.
That's a dream.
It started as a joke, but the longer we lived by it, the more we recited it, even in the hubristic way, the more of a truth it became. The biggest challenge that the Lantern Meet had was when it was in 2010, 2011, when now majority of us had to go into the real world after campus. What do we do?
Oh, all of you were at campus?
Yeah, the Lantern Meet was a group of campusers.
Yeah.
And now people have to ask themselves the question, is literature the thing for me? Have I been doing this for fun?
Yeah.
So majority of the people left. So the few of us...
That's like 2010.
That's 2010, yes.
Because you were in your third year in 2009. And then,
Yeah, and so majority of the people left at that time.
It didn't make sense to them anymore.
No, it did. But the thing is, is this something you want? Is it worth it? Is this
we're
a
looking
war?
for money.
Yeah, is this the war that you want to take on? Is this your battle?
Yeah.
And so around 2010, Kitara Nation, so the Lantern Meet took the liberty to start visiting schools to popularize poetry. And our task was, our first challenge was, let's go back to our old schools because they would make things a lot easier for us.
Yeah.
And we sent, a few of us went to Gayaza High, some went to Namilyango, others went back to Namagunga.
And your own
Some
school?
schools were, I did not even bother.
Yeah.
The majority of the schools were receptive, but they don't create the time, except one school, Old Kampala SS. And that's the first school that we visited as Lantern Meet, and we talked to the students of literature, and we had these sessions. So in 2011, I said to myself, but this group thing is not working.
Yeah. 2011.
Actually, no, 2010. It wasn't working because, group, you need a lot of concession. You need to move as a collective. So let me try to move as an individual. And in my senior 6 fac, I had taught as a teacher of literature, as volunteered at a community school.
Okay.
So I said to myself, that was the time I was waiting to apply.
What was it like? What was it like in your senior 6 fac?
It was amazing. I'm a very good teacher. I started. Let me tell you this. I started teaching when I was in P6. Like, this is kids coming in front of my fellow kids, and they're like, teacher, first teach us these things in English.
Oh.
In my O level and A level, I would be woken up from bed literally by phone belows to ask me questions on poetry, and I would answer, and then I go back to sleep. Like, I was that good. My students, my friends knew it. Both my grandparents were teachers. Both my mothers. Like, it's a thing I circled. So in 2011, when I was waiting to do LDC, I figured I have these 6 months. What can I do? I can teach. So I went and I did that thing that I thought I did in my senior 6. Took application letters to schools on the village, and I was rejected by all. The most hurting rejection came from Chambogo College. The DOS looked me in the eye and said, but the problem with you lawyers is you think because you can speak English, you can also teach it.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know. Right now, if you said that to me, I know.
That was in the time when you're waiting to apply for LDC.
Yes.
After campus.
Yes. And so I didn't know what to respond. Now I know what to respond now.
Yeah.
To give him more confidence in me. But then I didn't know. So I just let go and I gave up. My father had tried so hard to convince me to go and work at a law firm. He had talked to his friends, and I told him, I'm going to be doing law for the rest of my life. For these few months, allow me to do this thing that I want to do, to teach.
Yeah.
So eventually, he realizes I was serious, and he says, Peter, by the way,
did you still have the dream of being a lawyer?
Yeah, I did. I said, the head teacher of Nabisunsa is actually a friend of mine. Nabisunsa is a school one of the schools in our neighborhoods as well.
Yeah.
So she takes me to her, and strangely, great woman, by the way, Hajat Lubega, she too started out as a student of law. And then they were shifted from law to education because they wanted teachers. So
now?
She understood.
Wait, what?
No,
wait.
That's a story to tell.
I know, okay. I know, okay. Like, it's really shocking, but yes.
Yes.
Right.
So what happened was, she understood. When she heard that there was a lawyer who was interested in this, she was like, no, I'm curious. That woman asked, that woman asked me one question that brought tears to my eyes, because nobody had asked me that.
Yeah.
Not even my father.
What was that question?
Why literature?
You're even getting teary now.
Yo, I didn't expect it,
Yeah.
but I went on a tirade. She looked at me, I think after 15 minutes. She just got her phone, called the head of department and said, I have a new teacher for you. And she asked me, what do you want to do? At the time, I was still thinking of literature, creative writing in literature. So I said, I want to teach senior six. She was like, okay, go ahead. She allowed me to do whatever I wanted to, try out so many things. Of course, I did have qualifications, and it caused a bit of rubble in the department. So I was stopped from teaching A-level and candidate classes, and I was pushed to the lower O-level schools, which I didn't know was a blessing in disguise, because there is no particular syllabus for teaching literature in lower O-level. That is when I realized this is where the problem for literature starts. It is not even in senior six. You have to
dismantle the foundation.
You have to dismantle the foundation. Yo, we dismantled the foundation. I abolished, now that I was teaching lower O-level, nobody was really interested. I abolished any literature that was un-Ugandan. We started introducing novels, plays, and poems from lower O-level. We introduced theater, we introduced drama, we introduced fashion design, and what, like, literature became a way of life for these kids. It changed. It really changed. We started publishing books. We started having shows.
How far back is that? Still 2020?
No, that was now
much later.
2013. That's the 2013, 2015, 2017. I think by
let's not go beyond 2015, because 2015 is when I met you.
Yes.
And 2015, the Rightivism event.
Yes.
My very first event where I was head of I don't know how many departments. So when we were at this, what's the word? Where we had to meet before the event happens.
Yes.
It's not a training. What is that common word?
Yeah, I remember where we were. Retreat.
Yeah. Oh yes, a retreat.
Yes.
You got out of the car, and I don't know what I asked you. Maybe I asked you what you do, and then you were like, wait for me next year. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? I was like, wait, you're going to see. I'm like, what? Wow. And then 2016 made sense when, man, you were my first poet to experience, by the way.
Wow.
Because me, I wasn't in the literature field. I was told literature is hard in S2, and so I didn't pick it as an elective subject. I went on to do something else. And then I would see people reading, and I would find it so weird. Like, how do you just sit and look into a book? There's more to life, man. You can't just sit there. And then there I was, being introduced to the literature world.
Yes.
By Bwesige, and then a few months into it, I'm into the event, and I'm seeing Kagayi. He's talking about wait for me next year, and then you invited me before the launch. I met you at the theater, and I listened. I'm even privileged, man. Like, I listened to, I don't remember how many poems I listened to in audio.
Yes.
But the one that stuck in my head was the one you did with Hawa.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yo.
So I was like, this guy. Like, what?
Yeah.
I had to come the day you had the launch, because I think it was during the week.
Yes,
I had to call in sick where I was working. I was like, you guys, me, I'm sick. And I had to attend that launch. I watched you, I was like,
wow.
This?
That's what I do.
So when you talk about how you brought the Ugandan kind of perspective in literature, I'm appreciative of that, because much as when I was introduced to literature, I'm really glad the very first literature I was introduced to was African literature.
Yes.
You're talking about the Grishams. I used to see the books, but I can't sit myself down to read them because when someone told me that I can read, when someone told me that I can write, it was an African, it was a Ugandan.
Yes.
Okay, he doesn't like being called a Ugandan. He's a Nyanja.
Yes.
He's a Nyanja citizen. And then I'm meeting African writers. And then for the poetry, I meet Kagayi. I'm like, hi, God, where have I been, you know? So 2015, you had your book launch.
16.
Yes, 16.
Yes.
You had the headlines that morning.
Yes.
Forget how. 2065.
2065.
In 2060, let me tell you that now, my very best poems in that collection.
Yeah?
Or that launch. Hey, that Ben Kiwanuka thing.
Yeah.
Now let me tell you, when I took the CD, because I was just getting into the system of reading, I bought the CD. I used to play that CD every morning.
Wow.
And I would usually when I would be preparing myself to get out of the house, I'd make sure I'd listen to Ben Kiwanuka, because there was a moment when you kept saying, don't go to work
today. Stay home and make a meal.
Oh, heck. Because now in that moment, it gave me a place of reflection, like, maybe I don't have to leave the house now. Maybe I will not return. Yeah, and now for me, it was a thing of be the best you can be.
Yes.
Every day.
Every day. Every day.
Like I knew anytime I might not return home.
Yeah. Wow.
And I realized how we take life for granted.
Yes. Yeah.
And then few months, I think, after your launch, 2065 kept ringing in my head. And you talked about how children as I don't know how old
Yes.
will be taken for family planning.
Yes.
And then in South Africa, there was a proposition that I think kids as early as the age of 8 or 10
Yes. 8.
had to go for family planning. I was like, how do these guys see these things? Like, take us through it. Like, you're like prophets. Okay,
Yes.
both of you start with a P.
Yeah.
And you also must sound the same. How do you get to this kind of space? For the politics, it's almost obvious.
Yes.
But then you go into the health sector.
I guess it's a. Zukiswa once told me that it's so easy to predict what's going to happen in Africa. All you have to do is to keep reading headlines. And
the headline that morning.
And she was right. I knew, because even for the book itself, the headline that morning, I was writing about things, all of things that were happening in the public domain, in the news that was consumed publicly. And so you read this and that and that and that, and then you ask yourself, but where are we headed? To tell you the truth, I didn't intend to write 2065. It was never even my story to tell. I only wrote that poem because I wanted to prove to someone that I can also write a futuristic poem that can make people laugh. Because that was the task they...
Really?
Yeah, I was part of this, I went to this writers group at FemWrite, and so there's a guy who wrote a poem, it was entitled Uganda Reimagined.
Yeah.
I loved the idea, I didn't like the execution. So I tried to so I make suggestions like groupies, and then he was like, but if you guys say it's so easy, why don't you write your own? That night, I'd watched a video of Saken Robinson, an educationist, talking about the future of education, and I wrote that poem in 2012. So
you wrote 2065 in 2012.
Yes, I wrote it now 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So in that video, Saken Robinson was saying children born today in 2065, they don't know what they will be, and yet we are raising them in a generation that they are going to outgrow. And yet we are preparing them for a future that we do not know how it looks like. We are preparing them, we are using tools that are going to be outdated even before they are 5. But we are still insisting on. So when I thought of writing a poem, I said, you know what, let me try to reimagine Uganda for a child who was born in 2012.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to title it In 2065. And then, yeah, I decided to write about the things that I think will not change. And the trick in 2065 really is, I didn't write about the future. No, I wrote about the present, but only used future tense. So everyone who reads it knows that this is what's happening today. But every time you read it, every other day you read it,
there is a communication that comes
it's always
along.
telling you, our everyday is growing with us.
Yeah.
Our everyday is growing with us. For me, I feel sad. I used to recite that poem and people would laugh. They would laugh at the ideas you're putting out there. I remember I went to a literature class at Makerere University, I think 2017 or 2018 probably. And there's a line that says teachers will be begging on the streets to feed their families, their wives will sleep with tourists to make a decent living.
Yeah.
And I remember the students
I don't know why. It's not
protested.
funny.
No, like
It's sad, man.
Yeah, it was, but because these were students of literature, they were going to become teachers probably.
Yeah.
Now they were here being vehemently against this poet telling them these things.
We never want to hear the truth.
And then a few years later, stories start coming through how, teachers are now actually begging on the street during lockdown and stuff like that. Then now I don't like reciting that poem because it just makes people sad. Like, nothing has changed about that poem. I have a new book coming out. It's still the same poem.
Yeah.
I've not changed a single word in it, but it's lost all its sense of humor. It's become this grim, indicting thing against us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just came up with an idea of what I think Uganda looks like today and what it will look like tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was just trying to show someone I can write a poem also about
a futuristic one.
And it took me quite some time to accept that it was the most popular book in the text. I first recited it personally in 2016 at a show.
Yeah.
Before that, I had never recited. From 2012, Surumani Manzi is the person who actually debuted it to the public, and other people took it up, my students. I, on the other hand, really shied away from it.
Yeah.
And actually, even at the show, I didn't recite it. I recited it at the next show. I didn't recite it at the launch.
Oh, yeah?
I tried as much as I...
Maybe you did Ben Kiwanuka.
I did Ben Kiwanuka, of course. I did Ben Kiwanuka. I didn't do 2065.
But for some reason, my CDs keep getting spoiled. I don't know why. I bought 2 now, but
Oh dear.
I don't know why.
We need to upload them now. The time has come.
Now, from just a published poet to Kitara Nation.
To the publisher.
Oh, yeah.
The metamorphosis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is Kitara Nation?
Kitara Nation is a poetry company. For me, it's the first
poetry company.
It's the first poetry company I've heard of. It's not that I've worked for.
Yeah.
It's a poetry company that I started with my friends and students. We had to be patient for them to become 18 so that they can put, put pen to paper.
Yeah.
Whatever we wanted to do. To be honest, we started Kitara Nation because we got an opportunity to have a grant to popularize poetry in Ugandan schools.
Yeah.
That was 2015 as well. So 2016 we registered.
No wonder you said wait for me.
So by 2016 we had registered the company. That's when we received the grant. 2016. So 2017 we started the execution.
Yeah.
And that's how we started it. Kitara Nation, like I've said, we started out with the agenda of making poetry cool to young people.
Yeah.
And so we've carried out a number of programs, experimental activities. We had a poetry exhibition. I remember we put a team of 10 schools together and we gave them money to create poetry products. It was amazing. Yeah, we tried out a publishing challenge as well. We found about 6 schools and they did the same thing. We published a book for Nabisunsa Girls School.
You've really worked with the school for a long time.
Yeah. No,
I didn't know the history behind it. I thought you had just joined it much later.
We've published 118 students from 37 schools.
Boy.
Between
That's
2017
empowering.
and 2020.
That's empowering.
Yeah, it's been quite a lot of work.
Yeah,
that we've done. So basically, that's Kitara Nation.
I'm even surprised it's that old. I thought it's a new thing.
We've been there doing our work.
Pola.
So last year, we did the amazing thing of Dr. Dason Kahana told me it was the first time any publisher in Uganda, probably in East Africa, was releasing 12 poetry books under 1 year. We did that, and the reception was actually amazing. Considering the fact that it was lockdown, we had created these books to be consumed by the schools.
Yeah.
And now the schools were closed. We didn't know what to do, and we turned to social media. I am telling you.
The way how you're doing that
Should I tell you
thing.
something?
Yeah.
As Kitara Nation, as Kaga, I think I have sold over 500 books using my phone. But you can imagine the whole team and what they've been able to do. We have discovered the future of book business in Uganda belongs to e-commerce. I think the traditional system of going to the library is ripe for disruption. All it needs is somebody to come up and set up a new structure of distribution and efficiency and accountability. That is all we need. That is all we need right now. Because in lockdown, I was at my house. I could not even meet the writers.
Realization.
Yes. No, I had always known that books sell. I'd always published books. And there was a time we sold 600 books in one day at Nabisunsa.
One day?
Yes. That was in 2013. In one day. And so I knew that people could buy, but we didn't know whether people could buy these books outside the school setting, because now you have to change the branding.
Yeah.
And then also buy them in lockdown.
Right.
People have to eat.
Right.
People have other. So how is poetry even a thing you think of? Until it dawned upon us that now that people are seated home, they are bored, they are looking for things to do.
Yeah.
So now it's so easy to pitch somebody reading as a vocation at home. And if you like reading, the book can find you at home.
Yes,
So what we pitched was, if you're on social media, just make your order right now. This is the payment system. The book is going to come to you in the next few minutes, in the next few hours.
And in the lockdown, you're experimenting everything.
We were experimenting with everything.
Yeah.
We sold books around the world. Because we also realized with the DHL and all that, we said, we have friends who bought books from France. People bought books. Harriet Anena bought her book when she was in New York.
Yeah.
And she bought her copy of Don't Love. She sent the money. It's like, Kagami, I want my copy of Don't Love Me in English. Send it to me. And we DHL'd it. So we realized that, this thing of people wanting to break barriers of distribution. In as much as the local station, the library is important, I think it is more important that now we create relationships that exist in cyberspace. Because now the boundaries of the market have been broken. They are dealt away with, the rules of engagement.
We can't wait to be confined in this landlocked country.
Yeah, so here we were. We've made some poets very happy with some little money.
And people are getting known.
Yeah.
People are getting known. I'm seeing new names that
you go. There you go.
New
titles.
So I'm like, forget the title. I mean, people come up with titles all the time, but new names. People coming up into the space. I'm like, this man.
Yeah, and they're here to stay. That's maybe the other thing about the program and why it has been that long and low-key is, continuity. Consistency is something that we also need to learn to grow into. I don't know, from the time I was a poet, when I joined the Lantern Meetup to today, I can mention, I can run out of fingers and toes.
Yeah,
if I was counting the poets, amazing poets who have given up because even when they were more talented than we were, they never had enough conviction and belief. They never had enough patience with their talents. They could have a patience themselves, but with their talents to know. Let me not just mention names, but the thing is, it's for me the reality is real, that the lack of consistency is one of the reasons why our literature is not growing as fast as it can. There are so many brilliant poets that gave up, so many brilliant writers that they just gave up.
And I think even for the younger generation, they get to ask themselves, like, that guy was good then.
No. For them, it's different. You know why? Let me give an example of where I come from with the Kitara Nation program.
Yeah.
Lantern Meet published a few books.
Yeah.
So now they can read, they can meet some of these writers in the Lantern Meet.
Yeah.
They can meet the writers from African Writers Trust. They can meet the writers from Rightivism.
Yeah.
For them, they are growing up in an environment that has a new mood. It is no longer special to be a poet. It is now normal. Parents now parents know that if my child wants to do poetry, I can support. Now they recognize it as a talent. Recently at our inauguration yesterday, NRM had a poet. That in itself is a recognition of the role that the craft is creating, because that was the first time. And this is a government that has been in power for over 40 years. Yeah. And so you can imagine if in the 40th year, finally, a poet can speak.
I'm a little bit... Okay.
For me, the whole idea that the poet was there is enough. Okay. That's the door was opened, and it can always, the room for improvement is always there. That's for certain. I was about to castigate them as the complainer that I am. Is always there.
As the complainer that I am.
I also see now, for example, there are so many poets today, like Stella Nyanzi, who started publishing poetry, probably been writing for a while, but publishing poetry recently for 5-6 years. They have a readership of the younger generation, and that readership is a result of the work that we've been doing in the grassroots. So these are the people that are consuming, they are the people that are absorbing it. When you go to law school these days, there are poetry nights that happen in so many places in town and at universities. And the kids that are doing these things, the reason why for us when we were at university, we never had the confidence to stand up in front of the lecture room to say, I am a poet and I can recite for you a poem. That, for me, has been debunked. We have successfully demystified literature as a difficult thing. We have demystified it as a thing for only literature people. We have also demystified it as a thing done by dead people. At least
that part.
Yeah, that part. And so for me, I see the work that we're doing. Now we've started now producing books and other merchandise. Like the readership is now growing, its own market. And so I still remember the Lantern Meet vision a lot. Our desire to restore the epoch of Uganda's literary greatness. And even when I meet my friends, I keep telling them, I remember why we started. I remember
it's very important to remember why you started.
Every day. Do you know why? This is not easy work. It's hard. It's a labor of love, fruitless love. It's a labor of fruitless love. So what keeps you going is you remember why you started. It's, sometimes I used to think back, and the biggest dream I ever had was to be a published poet. Biggest dream ever. I used to think, I get that, I'm done, I'm sorted. And then you get there.
What next?
Not even what next. Is this all that I wanted? Like, is this all there is I could demand of myself? So the thing that keeps you going, the thing that pushes, the thing that keeps me going, the thing that pushes me, the thing that even, when I wake up and I'm like, but I can just go and finish my LDC and then I go and get a job somewhere and I'll be fine. But the thing that keeps telling you back, and like, no, Peter, I need to do this, is you remember why you started. You remember why you started.
It's very important.
It's very, very important.
So here we are. We've come to the close of our conversation that shouldn't have ended.
It has ended.
Hi. Like, we need almost a full day with you. But what is that message that you would want to leave any dismantler of status quo? Anyone who intends to dismantle status quo, what is that message that you would want to leave them? I feel like you've already said it. Remember why you started, but...
what are you waiting for?
It's the first question you asked me.
I would ask them that if you want to do whatever you want to do, what are you waiting for?
Wow. It's powerful. Because recently we had a conversation on imposter syndrome, fighting imposter syndrome. And my very first question with these ladies that were in attendance was that, what is your dream? And then what followed up was, why is it still a dream?
Wow. Why is it still a dream?
Yeah. So when you ask, what are you waiting for? Like, okay. So you guys, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Kagayi, thank you so much for being a part of Hashtag with Nabuguzi Kiwanuka. I don't know, do people have a free entry into Kitara Nation?
Yes. Kitara Nation was meant to nurture poets from high school.
Yeah.
And so there's been no free entry for anyone who is off that path, because we also realized it was important for somebody to grow up ideologically straight. But then also now the people that we are looking out for are people who, if you want to learn how to write, if you want to learn how to perform, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can come and we talk. You can come and join us. If you want to publish a book, if you have a manuscript that you think is sellable, we have business, come and we talk. If you don't know whether your poetry is sellable, but you've been writing poetry and you've been keeping it under your pillow, and come and we talk. Like just come, we talk. For me, of course, for me, Kitara Nation is about the business, and that's why I call myself a poetreneur.
I saw that for the first time. Like, okay,
I think it's important that writers also think of the business aspects of their craft. But I'm also aware that not everybody has the resources to start. I know how I started. Yeah. So for me, all I'm saying is there is Kitara Nation, there is Kagayi. I'm still alive. I am interested in so much in your poetry. It doesn't matter what you write, in what language. We shall figure it out. It doesn't matter. Just reach out. So how do they get in touch with Kitara Nation? Kitara Nation, they can there's an email, kitaranation.uganda at gmail.com. You can send us a Facebook message, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram.
All of it is
Kitara Nation. Pass by the National Theatre box office. Ask for directions, then they'll tell you where we are. And then you come and we can talk. Thank you so much. But if you love poetry, they call? They can also call.
What number do they call?
Let me give them my number really. It's 07508738818. That one.
Okay. I hope they will get in touch. What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for?
Thank you so much, Kagayi, for honoring the invite to Hashtag Nabuguzi Kiwanuka. And I don't know, how do we sign up?
Well.
How do we sign up?
In 2065.
In times where creatives are taking up spaces almost every now and then, what are you waiting for? Go out there and make a name for yourself. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Hashtag with Nabuguzi Kiwanuka. If you loved what you heard, make sure you subscribe to Hashtag with Nabuguzi Kiwanuka in your podcast platform of choice so that you don't miss out on the upcoming episodes. Or you may subscribe and catch up on the previous episodes that you may not have listened to. And remember to be kind by sharing this particular episode or the whole podcast to your friends list, right? Your contact lists. Share it with every other person in your contact list. Feel free to also share your insights about what connected with you in this particular episode, or you may even review the whole podcast. Be sure to tag us on social media. We are at Hashtag with Nabuguzi Kiwanuka on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter we are at HTNK Podcast. Twitter handle is at HTNK is all caps lock and podcast is in small case, but it's all one word. But you may also reach us on our email, which is htnkpodcast@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. For the email, it's all in small case. Go out there and be extraordinary, and look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. Ciao.